That we can go ahead and get started. So like I said, today we're going to be going over Sin 7 to Foresight AI. And with that, we can go ahead and get started. Just a moment. Okay, cool. Sorry, just doing something on the other end. So what is Foresight AI? So Foresight AI is a sales and inventory forecasting tool used to help you know what to order, when to order, and how much you should be ordering. So Foresight AI is designed to take out the guesswork of your inventory management to give you back time in reordering as well as capital in stockouts and overstock amounts. So Foresight AI can help make crucial business decisions in what products are performing well, allowing you to dig deeper into your business strategy to become more efficient and successful. With that, let's go ahead and hop into the demo. So when you log into Foresight AI, this is one of the first things you're going to see. If you are familiar with Foresight AI's journey, this is what used to be called Inventoro, something that Sin7 acquired back in May of this year. And since then, they've been working almost around the clock to be giving updates so that it's more synced with Sin7 overall, as well as adding some features that I think are going to be useful specifically to Sin7 customers. So with that, we have our forecast screen, and I really like it because the layout is really user-friendly. Specifically, I like that there is a graph that shows how well your data has been doing, and kind of as well as showing your forecast, I think, really clearly in a more visual way, as opposed to just maybe looking at Excel sheets, which you may or may not, most likely probably are doing right now. Green is going to be anything that's your previous sales order history, and then to the right is going to be your forecast. So dark purple is going to be your sales forecast. Dark blue is going to be your sales forecast. Light purple is going to be your safety stock. And then we also have this inventory forecast. So a way that you could interpret this graph, if it's something that looks like this, it could also be inverted. But in this case, we're basically saying that, hey, we need to now, after today, we really should be increasing our inventory forecast. And what that means is I should be having a lot more inventory on hand. I may be likely prone to stockouts. And over time, as I sell through what I do have overstocked, and maybe I start to dial in my inventory well, I'm following the replenishment recommendations that Foresight AI is giving to me. Over time, I'm going to get this homeostasis kind of place where I'm almost ordering exactly what I'm selling, which is great, right? Then we're not having overstock, we're not having stockouts, which means more money in our pocket, which I'll get to in a second. We also have the safety stock amount. So depending on your reordering process right now, you may find that you're prone to overstock if you have a minimum order, not a minimum order quantity, but a minimum inventory that you hit, and then it triggers a reorder. And maybe that's few and far between, but you still may be holding on to stock a little bit longer than you need to. So Foresight AI is going to calculate that safety stock for you. You can see that in times where we have higher sales, we have more safety stock. And in times where it's predicting lower sales, we have less safety stock. That's super key because it really is keeping in stock, stock reserves, I guess, the right amount of stock. So it's not necessarily static. It's something that is changing with your sales forecast. So definitely fine tuning that information as well. A couple other things about this graph, you can have it be in quantity or you can have it in dollar amount. So depending on who has access to your account, they may want to view it slightly differently. Also, this graph can change depending on filters that you want to add, depending on what information you're looking for. So in this case, I can see how this specific warehouse is doing, and I can layer on another filter if I'd like to. So maybe I want to look at this warehouse and I want to see how Healthy Grocery is performing. We can see that the graph is immediately changing, which is thinking about the time it takes you to maybe find this data in your current process. This could be a huge, huge time saver, allowing you to actually dig deeper into the data, empowering you to make those better business decisions. So we'll go ahead and click on all warehouse, all categories. Left-hand side, we have quite a few numbers here. 20% is going to be your year-over-year, month-over-month growth, and it is going to show you products that are performing exceptionally well. You'll notice that they are labeled as winners, and it's going to show you a lot of information on the SKU level, what the product is, what the category is, the sales price, current stock quantity amount, profitability, and the increase in percentage, so the velocity of your sales. And you can export this as an XLS if you want. 44 is going to be the number of items most vulnerable to seasonal trends. This is going to be great if you are someone who does have variability within your SKUs year over year on a year cycle. These could be anything like bathing suits or holiday decor or really anything that your business may have seasonally, which brings us to just kind of a quick tangent and bigger picture thought that is Foresight AI runs off of at least 6 months of data, ideally 2 years. That way it can track these seasonal trends and also just track your sales order history overall. That way it can, yeah, track any trends and then therefore help you predict a sales forecast. Last is going to be 83% is for Foresight AI's average sales forecast accuracy. What that means is just how cyclical your sales order history is and how strong the trends are directly correlates to how strong the future trends are going to be able to be predictive. So we can see that we have pretty strong trends here. We peak in May, we drop a little bit through the end of the summer, and then we have low winter months, and we can see that's repeated the same year. Therefore, or the next year. Therefore, it's pretty easy for the computer to tell, or with a lot of certainty, the computer is able to predict this in the future, hence the high number. If you have a lower number, that's not necessarily something to worry about. Really, it's just saying, hey, your sales have been a little bit sporadic, so it's harder for us to then predict an actual future state with a lot of confidence. But the computer will make up for it, or the algorithm and Foresight AI will make up for it by having a higher safety stock. That way, you're going to be less prone to stockouts. And then because it's Foresight AI is using your sales order history data as well as AI as well as algorithms to create this predictive state. So because it's doing that, it's also always syncing with Sin 7 to create those micro adjustments. So you may find in the future that this percentage may go up once you start to find an evening out or a trend in your sales. Last couple things on this page are going to be the inventory health report in the top right-hand corner. This is going to be your snapshot of your current health of your inventory. Obviously, it is called the health report. So it's going to show you your availability of products. So because I have 95% in stock, that means I have 5% stocked out. Directly correlated to that 5% being stocked out is going to be this lost monthly revenue. So because I have that stock out, I'm losing out on 35,000 a month, which is pretty large, but this is going to be what Foresight AI is trying to solve for because it's going to help you reorder the right amount so that you're no longer going to be stocked out, so that you're going to put this money in your pocket. Next is you may also have a red number, which would be an overstock number. So the opposite of a stock out, but having more products in stock than you need. And Foresight AI does calculate that, and it really is looking at the velocity of how frequently you're selling, as well as how often you're ordering, and trying to match that with your sales forecast that Foresight AI comes up with so that you're not over ordering. Last but not least on this page is going to be the forecast adjustment. So I already kind of touched on what goes into this sales forecast. A lot of it is sales order history, AI, and some Foresight AI algorithms, but the computer doesn't know what it doesn't know. So that is where a forecast adjustment would come in. This wouldn't necessarily be your month-over-month growth or your year-over-year growth. That's something that that Foresight AI is already tracking, but this would be changes in business, such as like a change in percentage like this, where it's like more of a spike, would be something like a marketing campaign where you have a big push of a sale where you're probably going to be selling a lot more. Trend and percentage would be something a little bit more longer term, such as pairing with a new larger distributor and or opening up like a new store. So you have like a longer term, bigger business decision kind of at play. And then a change in quantity. You can actually get pretty granular with like what section you want to section out into being impacted by a future state. So whether it be like a certain category, a certain supplier, or even just like a specific SKU in general, if you're going, say viral on TikTok. So that's the forecast page overall. And something to kind of think about is we're thinking about, this inventory health. If you look and you find that you've been overstock a number, something to think about is excess inventory can tie up to 20 to 40% of revenue for businesses, hampering your cash flow. So not only is this just, an overstock number that you probably want to solve for, that overstock number could be impacting your cash flow if that's something you're already concerned about. So this could be a really, really useful tool in freeing that up. Next, we'll touch on replenishment. So forecast is going to be that big picture. We're empowering you. We're telling you where your problem areas may be, what to kind of focus on, giving you, an idea of what should be coming. And in relation to that, we also have replenishment, which is going to be how you get there or how you start to solve that problem. And this is going to be with essentially your purchasing, right? How can I purchase the correct amount of inventory so that I'm solving this problem of overstock and understock as a dollar amount? And it's not something that's necessarily going to change overnight. You're going to have to stick with it a little bit, but you'll find those incremental changes over time are probably going to be highly impactful for your cash flow as well as your day-to-day of these reordering, because it's really, really simple to reorder. This is going to do all of that guesswork for you. Like I touched on a little bit earlier, you may be living in Excel land, as I like to call it, where you're downloading reports and you're trying to figure out how much, you probably know how much you ordered last time, how much you have on hand in relation to what you thought you were going to sell, and then maybe doing a gut check, as I've talked to some people, of, how much they're going to order in the future and what that guesswork looks like. And this is going to take out all that guesswork for you. So each line item is going to be an order or a stock movement. And what I mean by that is, in this case, if we look at beer, we'll see that we have actually 3 movements. And so the first one is beer. I should have ordered it last month. And it's going to give me this order proposal. This order proposal is going to be the Foresight AI generated amount that you should be ordering based on the algorithm, etc., but also based on your purchase period, so how frequently you're ordering, as well as your lead times, how long it takes you to get that item from submitting a PO to actually getting it in your inventory. So there's a huge complexity behind this order proposal number, but this is where AI meets human. So you can always, I talked about cash flow constraints. That's an issue for you and you're okay with it being stocked out. You can always adjust this order proposal as necessary. Inventory is going to be what you have on hand in transit. If you have really long lead times, this is where that would be present, a stock shipment that's on the way. Price per item, the type, which I'll get into in a minute. Price total is a line item on the SKU, where it's coming from and where it's going to. So this is what I wanted to talk about as far as this isn't just purchasing, but it is movements. You can see that this item is coming from supplier A and going to my central warehouse. And then later I have a transfer from my central warehouse to my stores. So if you have a little bit more of a complex warehouse system that works like this is a capability of the software. In addition to that, it does track some other stuff as well. So this will track your POs as well as your breaking down the POs further on a SKU by SKU level. And then if there's anyone on the call who uses production plans or assemblies, this is also going to give you a recommendation of when to complete those as well, based on the timing of how long those production jobs generally take place. Your single source of truth is still going to be Sin 7 as far as like tracking when those start, when they're completed, and where they go. But this is going to give you, I think, a really good, like a guidance on when you should be starting the assembly jobs, the ETA of when they should be completed, because Foresight AI is working backwards based on its sales forecast. And then it's going, working backwards with making sure that the materials are in the right place at the right time, whether it be ordering it, getting it in your warehouse and moving it to a store, whether it's ordering a raw material, moving it to a warehouse, moving it to a secondary warehouse for production, assembling the good, and then moving it to another warehouse after that, and then moving it to a store. Foresight AI can track all of that, and it is definitely putting into factor the time it takes for each of those steps to take place. Therefore, it's working backwards, like I said, from that sales forecast to the actual buying of the raw materials or the finished goods, whatever your process is. But this production plan is just going to give you that idea of when you should be starting it in order for it to end up in the correct warehouse to match your sales forecast. I already did touch on it, but that product, you're able to filter by product, warehouse, supplier, and time. So time being, just to kind of touch on, when the purchase order is, quote, like due or recommended that you order, or you can look at all of today's orders, this week's, next week's, or 2 weeks. So some folks order every day. You're more than welcome to do that. Some folks I've seen just, give or take a few days isn't a big deal. So they just do this week and they order for the entire week. Once you're ready to order, it's very, very simple. All you have to do is click each line item or click all of them and maybe unclick the ones that you don't want to order today. Create purchase order, and then it's going to create a draft PO over in Sin 7. So you can see think about, take 20 seconds to think about what your reorder process is now, but all I have to do is say, yep, this is what I want. This is about how much I want. This is my supplier. Check. Yep, this is what I want to do. Boom. So it's really, really easy and a huge time save. And I have merge orders on, and just kind of as a call out, that is going to combine all the SKUs to a certain supplier and put them on one PO rather than multiple singular POs, which could save you ultimately money on freight and just is easier to keep track of, right? One PO rather than multiple. You also can customize this screen with show and hide. I'm not going to go through all these features, but you can definitely check them out if you have the time. There's lots that you can do here based on, your reordering needs and needs. Again, please use the Q&A function if there's anything on here you want me to touch a little bit more on, but we are going to move forward to winners and losers. So winners and losers, we're starting to get a little bit more granular in the data offerings. So now we're actually going to be able to see how certain SKUs perform, which if we're thinking about the big picture of inventory health, we want to be keeping focus on items that are selling well and probably focusing less on items that aren't selling quite as well. So you may have this information already available or kind of an idea of what they are, but keep in mind that this is something that is constantly changing with the micro adjustments with your real-time sales and AI. So not something you need to calculate manually over time. It's just going to be available to you, which is obviously really nice. Couple other things to note is that this is broken down again on a SKU level, but also by location. So something that might be a winner in one location actually could be a loser in another. Again, just kind of having you think about, does it make sense to carry quite as much in one place? Granted, ForesightAI is probably going to tell you how much to actually carry in one place, but it may impact your marketing overall, maybe even how you're staffing stores. I know that some people use winners, chasers, and losers with how they have warehouses set up. You want your winners near the front where they're easily accessible. And that way, if you're restocking constantly, it is easier accessible for that as well. Might make sense for your losers to be farther away since they don't need to be quite as accessible and they're not moving as quickly. So definitely a lot of ways that you can think about this. And another kind of piece is like, why does this matter? So now you're going to be able to easier and quickly see and identify which products are driving growth and which are holding you back. And so this is going to help you ultimately optimize the inventory levels of winners to maximize revenue and eliminate lost sales from stockouts. And you can click into these and also export them as XLSs if you're interested. Let's see. And then also you can filter up here. So by warehouse, supplier, category, and product. Again, offering, the ability to get into, like, if I click central warehouse, now it's going to show me I have only 15 winners here as opposed to overall. And we'll go back to that. We also have some reports available to you. We have stock overview, sales forecast, potential stockouts, history and forecast, and we can do some custom reporting for a fee. I like to tell folks in the beginning to use this history and forecast one because it does kind of help you check, what you've been ordering in the past and what you've been selling in the past, as well as kind of like a guidance for, is your replenishment proposals on track with what you've ordered in the past, or are they way off? So it's almost like a way to kind of like check your work as far as how well the order proposal is working. The reason I say that is because folks use Omni a little bit differently. And the ForesightAI connection with Omni right now is it's because it's an API connection, it's a little bit plug and play. However, you may need some custom data mapping if something's looking a little bit off. So if that's the case, not at all something to worry about. Our onboarding team is really, really awesome with identifying that and troubleshooting. So this is going to be probably what you're in day to day. You're probably going to look at your forecast. You can get more deep into the data if you have time. Replenishment's going to be where you're going to be doing your reordering, and winners and losers might be a place where you're strategizing. But there also might be times that you need to be doing some fine tuning and in the beginning, some setup. So on this right-hand side, we have a couple, I really want to just get down to the strategy section because this is where you're going to do a lot of the fine tuning. And for, time purposes, I want to ensure that we get through this. So product segmentation is going to be how winners and losers are qualified or quantified. So you can have it, right now I have mine on profit, but you can also have it be on revenue, sales frequency, or sales quantity. However, I would say this is something that can impact kind of how your Foresight AI is operating. So I would say for the most part, set it and forget it or try not to change these too often. Next, we have suppliers, and suppliers is going to be the setup of your suppliers. So if you want to have a minimum order quantity, or sorry, minimum dollar amount by supplier, you could set that here, as well as this is where you're setting your purchase order period, how frequently you order, and your lead times, how long it takes from when you submit a purchase order until you actually receive it. And you can import this, you can bulk update it, or you can actually update via, oh, sorry, this is an export for Excel or CSV. If you're not using one of your suppliers, initially with the Omni connection, it'll do a data dump of everything over. It just won't, it may show up here, but it just won't have any suggestions in replenishment. So not necessarily something to worry about. Next, we have the warehouses, and this is going to be really important for setup because it is set up in a hierarchical system, and so it is going to be impacting how your stock moves throughout your inventory. In this case, I have all of my warehouses and stores on the same level, so my suppliers are going to stock these equally. However, if I were to tuck my New York store, I just have to drag it and drop it under my central warehouse. What it's going to do, and this is just some demo data. Now it's going to move from the central warehouse. It has to go through the central warehouse before it can go to the New York store. So like a waterfall, the goods flow that way. And then if you do have a warehouse that shows up here, that shouldn't be, that's where you can just change the visibility. You can also designate certain stores and warehouses for production. Again, if you're using production jobs or assemblies, and then it'll have the raw materials flow through to the New York store for production, and then it'll move from there. Last but not least, we have the edit arena, and I will click on that. The edit arena is where you can make those small tweaks on a SKU by SKU level. So if you click on product, you could search the product and then it'll populate down here. But I mean, product is probably the most basic example, but you can also filter by brand, sales category, really minimum order quantity, really any of these. But what you can do here is quite a lot. So I have my product, my supplier, and my warehouse. Here's where I could designate a parent warehouse where I want the product to come from, to get to this warehouse. You can set a minimum order quantity here if you'd like. You can set packing. So for example, 12 eggs come in a egg carton. So you would put 12 here because that's how many come in the item. Order and visibility, these are really big. So there are times where maybe I guess the best way to put it is like, do you have labor as a SKU? What are you going to do with new items? What about SKUs that you're sunsetting? This is kind of where you can toggle those. So orderability is going to be, it does not show up in my replenishment, but it shows up in my forecast and my winners and losers. An example of that would be custom furniture. I still want to see how it's performing, but it's not something I want to have on hand because I'm making it custom. So I would unclick orderability so that I could still see it, how well it's performing, but I'm not ordering it all the time. The other one would be visibility. When checked, it shows up everywhere. When unchecked, it's not going to be in my Foresight AI instance at all. An example of that is if you track labor as a SKU, that would be something that you probably don't necessarily need to be reordering or even like really tracking in your forecast or your winners and your losers. Or some folks also change the visibility for shipping items for their business to ship out to customers. So like boxes, packing peanuts, that's not necessarily something you're going to want to see how it's performing or how it's forecasted. Or maybe you do want to see the forecast, in which case maybe you just want to change the orderability, or maybe you want to keep the orderability. It's really up to you. And this is where you can make those changes. We also have when it was created. I touched on the safety stock that Foresight AI calculates for you, but you can override that by having a minimum and a maximum inventory. If you're food and bev, this is where you can also set an expiration in days. There's not necessarily a way to track batch number here. That's something that's still going to be in Sin 7 with FIFO. But this is going to give Foresight AI a heads up on essentially like what the expiration in days is from when you receive it, 7 days, 14, 30 days, etc. Then we have purchase period and lead time. So I showed you how to do it on the supplier level, but if you have one-off SKUs that are impacted by suppliers differently, this is where you could set those as well. Volume, weight, and then predecessor is really awesome. I just talked about what do you do with new items. So I said that Foresight AI needs at least 6 months worth of data to start accurately predicting a sales forecast for your business. For singular new items, it does need about 90 days. But what do you do in those first 90 days then? If you have a similar item, you can actually link them using the predecessor feature so that I'm using another item's sales order history, or it could be, a live item. It doesn't have to be one that you've sunset. And then it will use that sales forecast as something to go off of. And then with those AI and micro adjustments and syncs, and soon as you start selling it, it'll start to pick up and create its own forecast from there. So really, really awesome feature. Replenishment recommendations, automatic is just going to let the system go off of everything. Safety stock, your sales forecast, your current sales orders, and any adjustments that you have. Replenishment using sales forecast is going to be more so tied to buying almost exactly what you're selling. Minimum inventory is if you go and set a minimum inventory. Once you reach that number, it will then trigger an order. And then there is also replenishment using customer orders, which means it's not going to place an order unless you get a customer order for it. Again, custom furniture would be a great example. With that, that's pretty much a lot of what I have today. Essentially, we're back at the beginning. And if there's anything I can leave you with, let me leave you with this. Foresight AI's advanced forecasting empowers businesses with affordable, intuitive tools to unlock efficiency, free up inventory capital, and never miss a sale. If you like the information we just went over, please feel free to take advantage of our Foresight AI new sign-up offer. For the first 300 participants, we're giving away 6 months, 50% off. I believe we're around 250. So don't delay in that. It also comes with free onboarding if you're part of that cohort. And if you're interested, you can sign up with Foresight AI by chatting with me after. I will be sending out an email, but if you don't want to delay, I think my email is attached to this invite for you, but Zoe, Zoey, Zawacki, Zawacki at sin7.com. It is my end of day, so if you want to take advantage of that, let me know in the next few minutes, and I can get that started for you. Other than that, please feel free to stick around for Q&A. We will be sending out a copy of the recording in a follow-up email. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining and have a wonderful day. And it looks like we don't have any questions. Let's see, do we have any questions? One question. Can you explain more about production jobs in Foresight AI? Okay, so within Foresight AI, I touched on it a little bit as far as replenishment. So replenishment is where we can see the production plan and we can see like what the product name is of the bundle. As far as like what it'll look like under new proposals, this is where it's going to be giving you a purchase order for the raw materials. Production plan will tell you when that needs to be created. Like I said, Sin 7 is your single source of truth still, and where it should happen, how much it should happen. And then under proposals, once that's complete, it'll show that final good being moved from the warehouse to one of the stores. So that's the flow as far as what it looks like under replenishment. But if we click into also top right-hand corner, bundles is going to be what you can see is included in a production job. So we can see that in a sports drink, we have 2 coconut water and 1 lemonade grapefruit. And this is where you can also edit them. Although again, I would say Sin 7 should be your single source of truth as far as what that looks like. And that, I think, was the only question. I'll give you folks a couple more seconds to get any last minute questions in. But again, I am sending out this recording with my email, so you can always shoot me a question later. All right, I think maybe that was the only question today. Perfect. Well, in any case, have a wonderful rest of your day. I will be in touch soon. And please make sure to follow up if you have any questions with me. Have a great day. Bye-bye.